I got to tell you something. We've said this about the NBA for years, where I like the NBA free agency as much as the regular season. I prefer the playoffs above everything. Yeah. And I'll always love the NFL, the games better than the offseason. But in the last 4 or 5 years, these general managers, Joy, they're younger and they're trade-centric.
Way more aggressive. It's gotten very fun.
Very fun.
Well, Deshaun Watson is rumored to want out of Houston. And the Miami Dolphins have emerged as a potential destination.
Okay, so that's now, is that being documented?
According to Chris Mortensen.
Okay, then it's real.
Watson could waive his no-trade clause if it means a move to Miami. He said Watson could play hardball with the Texans, but would consider a trade to the Dolphins in which Tua, along with other additional compensation, would go to Houston.
I'd want not only Tua, but I'd want 2 firsts. I'm sorry.
You would need the equivalent of, because they have Houston's first-round pick this year, so you would need the equivalent of Tua and 2 firsts. So maybe it's like 2 seconds and a first.
I'm not,
because you are giving Tua, who is a top 5 quarterback.
Right, fair, but so unproven.
You're giving your first-round pick, 5th overall, plus an additional first, plus 2 seconds. That seems fair.
So Miami, if they make this move, they'll have the 3rd pick.
Right. Plus, because they're not going to get that back to Houston. So they'll have the 3rd pick. They would trade Deshaun for Tua straight up additionally with Tua with picks. Is what we're discussing.
Listen, if you're in a rebuilding mode and you're going to inherit this really expensive quarterback, those picks become starters. So they have to get their offensive line fixed. I'll tell you what, he solves almost every one of their issues. He solves all Miami's issues.
Okay, so it would be the Tua, the 3rd, and the 18th pick is what we're talking about.
So they would have this year
for Watson. And the 18th overall pick.
Who would get that? Houston?
Houston.
And they'd get rid of a huge salary. I
think it's a great move for both teams, actually. And listen, I know Dolphins fans are currently in love with Tua, and they think I'm overreacting.
Let's move past
that. I am I'm a realist, and I'm very proud of that fact. That's who I am. I like to look at both sides of the coin and then make my own decision. I have watched a lot of Miami Dolphins football over the last 20 years.
And let's be honest. Outside of the offensive line, which Deshaun sort of solves most of those problems because of his feet, Miami's at the point now. This is the 3rd year of the rebuild, right? They don't want too many picks because they're already a really young football team.
They're young. The defense is set. You need a couple, 1 or 2 more dynamic pieces on offense. This is a very deep wide receiver draft. So you can get a good wide receiver in the 2nd or 3rd round this year. It's very deep.
If I'm Miami, I'm for this.
I think it's a great deal for Miami.
I'm not sure it's a great deal.
And it's not a bad deal for Houston if Deshaun Watson is this upset with them.
Yeah, I know, but I think it's a better deal for Miami. I'll state this.
Oh, no, it's definitely a better deal for Miami because there's a lot of unknowns that Houston's getting.
And they also have a culture. So it's microwavable. Like, I have a really good culture and a coach, and I just put in a star. It's like, that's going to work.
No, it's a much better deal.
Tua's got to now.
It is a much better deal for Miami than it is for Houston.
Yeah, Tua's got to change the culture. That's a huge
Which Deshaun Watson wasn't able to do.
So to me, if I'm Miami, I do it now.
This is just in the talks. Like, Houston is the one that has all the leverage. They're the ones that have to make this deal. But apparently Deshaun Watson was also not happy with the franchise's insensitivity to social justice. He's on a 4-year, $156 million contract through the 2025 season. So trading him would result in a cap charge of $21.6 million for the Texans for the 2021 season. But if you get all those picks,
and
you're
you have
in a
Tua,
rebuild.
You're not paying anything for Tua.
So Doug Peterson's future in Philadelphia is in question after the controversial end to this season.
Should be.
And he could be out if owner Jeffrey Lurie is not confident in Peterson's vision for the team going forward. Lurie reportedly has not been sold on how Peterson plans to fix the offense and get the Eagles back to contender status. So the two are expected to meet again today after initial talks last week reportedly did not go well. So things are kind of up in the air for Philadelphia. They're 22-25-1 since the Super Bowl win.
I thought his judgment was... there are all these stories leaked that Doug didn't do it. It was the GM and the owner. But if the owner and GM are the ones that told you to pull out Jalen Hurts, then they'd give you a pass and rehire you.
Right.
I mean, they're not rehire you. They would just,
then this story wouldn't exist.
This story wouldn't exist. So that tells me it was Peterson's call, and it was a bad call.
It was just a bad decision. It made no sense.
Especially on standalone games. I still don't understand this. Jalen Hurts, you've already offended Carson Wentz. Your job as a quarterback coach